Okay, so here I'm going to use my face drawing algorithm to draw two brothers that look very similar to show how this helps me to identify the important differences between individuals. So I chose these two faces, namely myself and my brother. I'm going to put myself here on the left and my brother on the right. Ben, who edits my videos, is going to be right here. So let's start with my eyes. That's step one, is get the colored part of the eye. Okay, I'm going to put 4 of those in between. So there's 3, here's 4. So that's my edge for my other iris right there. I'm going to try to put them right across from each other. I see that from corner to corner of each eye, mine are pretty level. And the other thing that I want to be conscious of is the amount of the white of my eye on each side. So I seem to have a little bit more on the inside than the outside. So let's cut off a lot of the circle because this is a squinty smiley picture. And let's just lightly sketch. But here's a problem. I've got more white space here than I have here. So I'm going to correct that because on my eye I see that I have more white space toward the nose than I have toward the side of my head. So quick correction right there, and I think that'll do. My nose is crooked and goes a little to my right side, so this nostril is not going to be as far over. Now you can just make a face symmetrical and it should still look like the person. Symmetry, I don't think, or asymmetry, I don't think is a key component of likeness. It definitely has characteristics that we remember, but I think facial recognition can happen very effectively with a symmetrical face, even if that person does not actually have a symmetrical face. Okay, now I looked at the slope of these nostrils. Mine slope just very slightly this way, so like this rather than like this. So let's see if Ben's do the same thing. They can go either way. The slope of those nostrils might flare out. It might go like this and go under. So now the mouth is located at a height between the base of the nose and the chin. And that can vary pretty widely from person to person. So immediately I see that mine is lower than Ben's. But it's good to judge the height of the mouth from where the top teeth come down to. You can't always see that if a person's mouth is closed. So it's fairly equal to the height of the top lip. So I'm going to go ahead and put pretty much the same kind of eyebrows on both of us. I mean, I see very little difference between our eyebrows. The peak of his eyebrows is over the outer edge of the colored part of his eye. The peak of my eyebrows is closer to the corner of my eye. So that is a distinct difference that I should include in there. So for mine, the peak of the eyebrow is further out. Then I want to look at where my cheekbones are. So let's go to the edge of my skull and use my eye as a gauge for how far out to come. So it's less than an eye's distance. On some people it's more than an eye's distance. So that's a good comparison to make. I mean, it's almost right at the edge of my eyebrow. I have this narrow forehead. So let's come out this way. I see that my cheekbone, the widest part of my skull, is at that cheekbone that's just below the eye. And I mean, that's usually the case with everyone. And then it slopes inward toward the jaw. So now I have a width for my jaw as well as a height for that jaw. So me, I am narrower forehead than Ben. It slopes inward, and I've got all these messy kind of bangs coming down. Higher on this side, and again, I'm judging that my hairline would be a little bit lower than Ben's. A little bit, not much. Ben, I'm not trying to say that your hairline's receding yet, buddy. I'm just saying mine's naturally a little bit lower. Okay, so let's go here and make this hair coming this way, and I've got a little bit of hair here, and it's kind of messy because I'm always thinking about art and forgetting to look in the mirror. Let's put this line coming off of his nose that defines the cheek itself. So you want to look and see where this connects to the nostril. It's usually right at the top of the nostril, and then it usually goes out just past the mouth, not to the mouth. So it'll come out just past the mouth. And I can see there's kind of two curves, 1, 2. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. We'll go to the top of the nostril, and we're aiming for outside of the mouth, not directly to the corner of the mouth. And then he's got these dimples right here, and then he's got his cheekbone that I gauge from the nose. Here's the ball of the nose, so I say, is the furthest out part of the cheek above the nose, below the nose? You'll see both. Different races have different things that are more common. His cheekbone is a little bit above, kind of level with the nostril. That's, or I should say his cheek, the part of the cheek that comes out the furthest. So this is real important, and take your time to get it as accurate as you can. You can just use a line, even though this line doesn't exist in the picture. When you're drawing, a line just suggests the stop of one object and the start of another. So this is the stop of that circle shape, that sphere that would be his cheek, and the start of that different edge that goes to his jaw. I'm going to do his hairline coming down here. I can see a line. I'll just use a straight line instead of doing all the little hairs for now, because I can just fill in that shadowing later. Again, there's a cheekbone. I see a light spot on this photo. It's not like Ben's. It's not as round. I'm a little bit more bony than Ben. And so we're going to go up like this, and then a little bit over like this. I'm just drawing a boundary around where I see a brightest spot on my cheek. So then this side, same thing. I'm going to come down. It kind of comes in this way, and then maybe drops down a little bit. Maybe right there. This is just representing a blurry, soft line. I'm just using a sharp line to represent where it is. So I'm not going to go crazy with the details on the hair. I just want to get the darkness of it, really, so that I can see the difference that the values make. Whenever I want to make messy hair like this, there's kind of a general pattern where you kind of make a V shape and then darken it, lighten it as it comes to the open part of that V shape, and it creates, clumps of hair. Now, temple shadows are an important thing. You can't see a lot on me. You can just see this faint shadow that comes up here. But I'm going to put that in. I want whatever's there, I want to make sure I represent it. Because they create a three-dimensional shape of the forehead that I think makes a difference in the way a person looks. So I try to be real attentive to those shadows on the temples. Temples is the sides of the forehead. Now ears, just like eyes, they have the same parts. No matter who you're drawing, it's just a matter of where those parts are. So I can quickly go through and just look for the same parts that I know are on every ear and just put it in the spot where I see it. That's easier than, memorizing the anatomy of something is valuable for that exact reason, because it makes you quicker at just looking for where something is rather than if something is. Now notice that I'm not putting the wrinkles in my face yet, because I want you to see that I don't need the wrinkles to show who I am. That just shows how old I am. But the wrinkles, it's especially valuable if you're drawing somebody that doesn't want you to show their age. That it's common if you're drawing, like if you're working a booth at a carnival drawing caricatures, then people don't necessarily love it if you show their age by drawing all their wrinkles, and it's not necessary. So make a girl look younger, and she'll definitely like the job you did better. As long as you have the proportions in place, you can add shadows. Values make a big difference. With pencil, you have this small scale of available darks and lights, so you have to be real careful with how dark and how light you make everything, because just a little bit of difference makes it interfere with its comparison to something else. Alright, now we're headed over to Ben. Same kind of thing. I'm just going to start by darkening these eye sockets. Get some shadows in there. I kind of like how there's a dark corner right here. Alright, and then his nose, I'm glad I made his nose in the right place. Ben always was the one with the dimples. He's got the cute face. Ooh, this is cool. Nice hair, Ben. We'll just kind of shave off a tiny bit at the top of the head here. Alright, let's put a mouth in there. We've got dark corners. Okay, so here we have those three shapes again. Little line that goes down right there. And then the curve of the bottom lip on that side right there. And then just a little curve in between the two sides. Notice that his mouth is maybe a little more open in this drawing. As long as I make that shape look good, then it won't really matter if I change the opening of the mouth a tiny bit. Again, I'm just working from the darkest part to the lightest part, and I'll pull from the shadow into the light so that my pencil just tapers out and lifts off the paper. And when I keep stroking the pencil in that same direction, it helps to give me those softer gradients. So I always find it interesting how little it looks like the person when I just have the face drawn, just the lines that show where things are, before I get these shadows in place. It never ceases to change dramatically once the shadows are in there. So you could be fooled early on in a picture, thinking that things are way off track, that it doesn't look like the person. That's why it's so important to have a method that you can trust. Here's a fun trick you can do with drawings. You can take a dark shadow, we can put a backlight on this, or edge lighting, whatever you want to call it. So I'll make this shadow real dominant, and if I had planned from the beginning, I wouldn't need to use the eraser, but I'll use it to add this effect in. It's fun. You can do it on any picture without really damaging the likeness of your character. See, so I'm going to take a line right here, then right here, just right along this edge. It just adds a three-dimensional look to just adds another little edge with a different light hitting it. So then I'll do the same thing on my hair, maybe right here, just add that little bit. And do the same thing on Ben. If I darken this side with him, he's already real light right there, so I'll just go like this and bring a shadow up here, bring this shadow up here. Just enhance what's already there. See that nice light that's left there? Just a nice little trick to make pictures look a little more finished and pretty. Now, one last little adjustment I'm going to make in this drawing is on the corners of the eyes. I keep coming back to them, but they're such an important thing. And so I'm seeing that, I just don't have them extending quite far enough toward the nose on mine. So I'm taking this, bringing this shadow down a little bit. And, before I had it a little bit shorter. And it's a tiny change, but because I saw it, I feel compelled to change it. So I'm just going to take that corner in toward the nose a little bit further. And I've noticed that corners of eyes are just, they just really impact the portrait. So this is a tiny change, so maybe it doesn't have a huge impact because that's just a very tiny adjustment. Which just goes to show that this method is working very well, because all of my changes at this point are just tiny changes rather than trying to troubleshoot things that look really wrong. Same on Ben. He's got a little more shadow in the eye, and the eye is, I left a little bit too light here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of extra time to try to get those to look just right. And I'll put a little bit of shadow at the top of the eye, right here, and bring this corner in a little bit more. You know, I want those corners of the eyes to be doing their job here. You know, eyes can look different size because, you know, that outline around it that's made by those corners and by those eyelids, they can fool you on the actual size of the eye. So it's good that I'm doing this now toward the end with confidence that I have the size of the eye right. Then I had a little bit of a shadow here. I kind of like that shadow right here, even though I didn't see that in the photo so much. But I kind of like the way it looks. I did it on mine. I might as well do it on his too. Give a little bit more depth to the eye socket. So those little adjustments, you know, make the eyes look as straight as possible. Make it, you know, sometimes it can look like one eye is going this way, the other is going this way. That's largely affected by where I put that little reflection. If I put the reflection in different places on each eye, he's going to look like he's looking different directions. You know, if eyes are facing the exact same direction, they should have the exact same reflection. So it's important that I don't make it different on each eye so that I can keep this stare looking real natural, like the eyes are focused and looking ahead. I suppose you could go for hours. You know, this is why people do grid drawings, is because, you know, if you're after complete accuracy, just make a grid. But if you're after a project that will be fun and give you good practice at capturing the likeness of a person without having to duplicate the exact picture, you know, that's where I think this is more valuable. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video and found it somewhat helpful. Again, you can see a full-length, longer version of that with a lot more information at my site, learn.muraljoe.com. I'm going to take a few minutes and check out some comments from the last video I posted of me painting Harry Potter. The ongoing project of painting Harry Potter for my son, I started like a year ago. So he's not even going to be in Harry Potter, but I'm done with that thing. Thank you, Pollyanna. I won't forget his scar. That is an important detail. Thank you, Maria, for the very nice compliment. I am not the best. Thank you for saying I'm the best. I appreciate that compliment, but I'm not the best. Hajira says, "Hi Joe, can you please tell us how to prepare your wall for painting a mural and how to prime it?" Okay, you can use alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and you put it on the wall. If it takes the paint off, then you know that it's acrylic or a water-based paint. So you're safe to just paint over it with another acrylic water-based paint. It'll stick. There's not a whole lot of prep necessary. You don't need to prime it. So long as it's clean, you know, obviously if it's got oil and gunk on it, then you probably don't want to paint over that. That might cause issues. If you're doing a wall and you find out that it's painted with oil paint originally, you may not want to go right over that with the acrylic latex paints. Trying to paint over a dry, hard, oil-based finish, it can definitely flake off in the future. It has trouble adhering. The water base has trouble adhering to the oil. So I would just use a good bonding primer. There are good primers available now, and it just needs to be specifically a bonding primer. In the past, I used just Glidden Gripper, and that was a water-based primer that I just found at the hardware store, and it worked really well. There's another one called what's it called? This Sticks primer. I used that, and it's a very good bonding primer. Very hard to wash off your hands. I also will smooth the surface if it has a lot of texture. Just because the shadows of heavy texture will interfere with my details. So if your mural has small details, then I recommend, you know, getting the wall smoother than the details of the picture you're going to be painting. But if the mural just has really big shapes, then texture sometimes can just add to the artistic look of it. So that's up to you. But a lot of the time I will float over it with a trowel, just use common drywall mud. And then if you do that, you want to paint that drywall mud with maybe a drywall primer before you start painting it. You can go straight on drywall mud with paint. I like to water it down if I do that. It's not specified for that, but it does still work. I almost never sand, just to get paint to stick. I know that a lot of people recommend sanding a surface to get paint to stick better, but I have just never found that the scuffs from sandpaper on that scale really contribute that much to adhesion. I mean, yeah, it's harder to peel paint off of a rough surface, but long-term adhesion, I'm more concerned about the chemical bond between two things. So if sanding is all I've got to make it stick, then I feel like I don't want to paint it in the first place. I want to know that it's adhering chemically. So I don't even bother sanding. I just make sure it's a surface that it can actually stick to. Inspired Skill brings up a really good question about bracing your neck while you paint. I take a blanket and I tie it around the back of my neck and then under my arms and behind my back. You can watch that video, how to brace your neck painting ceilings. See, I try to title my videos all appropriately so that if you just try searching for the question, if you want to know if I have a video on something, just search the question and maybe there's a title that's very close to it. Black and White says, hey Joe, could you do another video of you painting horses? Well, yeah, I would like to do that. Horses are a very beautiful creature. I used to love drawing horses when I was a little child. Man, I should show you some of the drawings I did when I was a kid. You'd get a big kick out of that. Thank God for parents that saved, they saved a lot of my drawings. And my mom, she just packed them up in this binder and gave it to me when I was grown up. And I was like, wow, that is an amazing gift. I have this binder full of tons of my childhood drawings. I got to show you that someday. And it's got drawings of horses in it. Painting horses, I definitely ran into trouble painting horses. So thank you. Inspired Skill posted this link to an old video where I am painting a couple horses, but I didn't like they came out kind of stubby, those horses, and so I would like to take another shot at it, or just see if they'll just let me go over there and mess with that mural some more. But they're it's a really fun challenge, all the anatomy and the shapes that make them have their real graceful form. I would like to do that. Heather Roop says, will you be doing a video on how to capture the likeness of a person? All right, cool. Well, I hope this video has addressed that, and I would love to hear your feedback. Chrysostomos has a good question here about creating your own pose for a person, kind of like this picture of Harry Potter, creating your own pose. And I definitely want to do videos on that in the future, but I'm still wrestling with how it's done myself. You can see in this Harry Potter video that these comments are. It's just so much more than I thought it was when I started this project, but I definitely want to get into that more. Aurelio Loiacono, grazie. Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. Solomon Johnson says, funny, I was just thinking about this early piece. I haven't seen the whole video, but I'm glad you decided to press on. It looks like it has been worth the learning experience. Hey, thanks a lot. It's definitely worth the learning experience. I still see improvement on the horizon in the future with this one. Hey, thanks for watching. And next time, next video is going to be on this guy over here, this Leviathan. I've been working on that, trying to fine-tune the details, get that to look more finished. I'm excited to be close to the finish on my big sea monster. So I'll have that up probably next week, and
I'll see you next time.